Hey, what's up guys? You need to know this. If you don't choose wisely, and I'm not kidding you, you might end up with a Filipina who will go to extreme lengths to hide things from you and keep things from you in order to get you and in order to keep you in a relationship. And I am not joking. I have some stories for you guys right now for this video that I'm gonna tell you that are 100% true and 100% crazy to think that this kind of thing can happen, but it does happen, and I think it happens often. So you have to be careful when you are diving into any kind of relationship with a Filipina. There are great Filipinas here, there's no doubt about it, but unfortunately, not all. Check this out. So this first story that I'm going to tell you, it came from a guy that reached out to me. He's a subscriber of mine. So I do these phone consultations, and in this case, the guy was having a long-term relationship with a Filipina, and he just needed someone to process what's going on with, because in the US, he just doesn't have anyone that understands what he's going through, because none of his friends or family are into the idea, I guess, of coming to the Philippines. So he's kind of on his own. So anyways, he called me and we chatted about this relationship that he's been in for about 1.5 years with a Filipina who he has visited on 2 occasions, both of them for about a month. And at this point, after 1.5 years, he's quite serious with this girl. And the plan is to get married and eventually bring her back to the US. Now, what he eventually revealed to me was kind of shocking that he's continuing with her, but I'll get to some reasons why this is happening. So basically, meets the girl, everything's great. He goes to see her for the first time. They travel around. The bonding is great. He said it was awesome. She was so sweet, paid attention to him, gave him all the attention, the affection, wasn't asking for money or anything like that. She was just being a sweet girlfriend. And so after this first visit, he went back to the US thinking, wow, I met the one. She's everything. She's cute, she's sweet, she's kind, and she's not asking for money or anything like that. So time goes on, they have the long distance thing, he plans another trip, it's even better. And then he comes back to the US the second time, and this is where things completely blew up in his face. So now they're at the point where they're talking marriage and they're talking plans about her coming back with him to the US. So she is thinking, I better tell him the truth. She reveals to him that she has kids, which she did not tell him about this entire time, with his plan of marrying her to start a family with her back in the US. And of course, as soon as she reveals this to him, he completely was heartbroken, right? Devastated on so many levels. It kind of changes the whole plan as far as what they were doing with her coming back, getting married and starting a family. He's devastated because she lied to him on such a big level. Like, what a crazy lie to hold for that long from someone, especially when they were deep in the relationship and very close. He described it as just being this perfect relationship. So he's heartbroken and he's done with her at this point. But she didn't want to give it up, obviously. She did not want to lose him. She came so far with him. So her efforts went to level 10 with her showing so much emotion, her own devastation on losing him and explaining why she did it. And her story is, I come from poverty. I don't have these opportunities. Please understand, if I told you that I had kids, you wouldn't want to be with me. I'm so sorry. It's the worst thing I've ever done. And on and on. And she stuck with this story for a while. It took him about a month, and he finally came around and started to open up in a way that he said he would never do for anyone if he was dating back in the US. But he started to try and empathize for a girl who lives in the province and is poor and has no opportunity. And she convinced him that the love is real and that she just made a mistake. And she's hoping that they can work something out where the kids can be, involved in the family and then have more kids together. And he started to empathize and he eventually took her back. Now, he was at a point of complete mixed emotions. And that's why he reached out to me. He just wanted to talk to somebody about it. And of course, my opinion is, like maybe most people, to start a relationship on such a heavy duty lie and to hang on to that lie for such a long time. She's capable of lying. She's capable of lying on a huge level. And to me, that is a massive, massive red flag. Not to mention him having always in the back of his head the second guessing if she's being honest with him with future things. And he eventually did end things with her and has moved on since then. But guys, this example is just showing you how desperate someone can be, and they're willing to go to great lengths to lie to you in order to get something that you want and probably need so much in order to get out of a bad situation. And what's crazy is that he had no idea. There wasn't any other signs or red flags, and maybe she was, genuine on all other levels except for this lie, except for this big thing that she was hiding from him, which, what are you thinking? Like, eventually it's got to come out. You have kids, you have young kids. Crazy story. And here's another crazy story. So this guy I actually just met here in Biliran, up in Leyte, where I am right now. I just had this conversation with him a couple of days ago. This guy was completely devastated with what happened to him recently. Absolutely devastated. I can't believe this happened. Meets a Filipina, falls in love. I'm going to fast track through the story. Falls in love with this girl and eventually agrees to live with her in the province at her home, where her brother lives and her brother's kids live, because her brother's wife has passed away. So the brother and his kids live in the same house as this girl, the girlfriend of this guy that I just met. And they lived together for 6 months before he found out what was really happening. He said up until then, though, things were fantastic. He said the relationship was great. I asked him if there was any red flags or any financial support. He was fully supporting them financially, the entire time. He did become the financial support system for them on many levels, but he wasn't worried about it because he was all in. He wanted the relationship and he wanted to help out. And their life was great. He was friends with the brother. He felt true love. And he felt a part of the family. Now, what happened to him 6 months later is a conversation that he had with the neighbor. He became friends with the neighbor. And on a daily basis, they would say hi to each other. They'd have little bits of conversation. He was learning the language. And he just recalls getting to know this lady quite well. So 6 months later, when they became good friends, the neighbor decided she had to tell this poor guy what was really happening. She let him in on the absolutely insane secret that was happening. So his girlfriend, her brother, was her husband. And the kids were their kids. And he was living in the house, sleeping with this girl in the room, with the husband and the kids in another part of the house, all to have a foreigner as a walking ATM. And this was going on for 6 months until he found out from this neighbor. He recalls that initial conversation when he confronted her as being he was in complete shock, his body was numb, and she was just denying it. She was in shock too because he found out, right? And he said it was the most crazy, awkward, devastating, heartbreaking, weird moment that he's ever had. He was mad, he was sad, all the above, but it has taken him a while to just be able to talk about it and, start to think about moving on and, trying to meet somebody else. But absolutely insane story. All right, so this last story is a crazy one in that it was more of a health risk situation. This Filipina was so desperate to get this guy and keep him in a relationship that she was willing to put him at severe risk of health issues and just complete life-changing type of situation. So they met online, and he describes it as being great from the beginning. He said it was instant compatibility, instant chemistry, and he just felt at ease with her. They got along so great. He said on all level, from friends to physical and romance. He said it was all great. And they started traveling together, and he described it as being this sort of dream type of relationship, living it up in the Philippines. And things took a really, really bad turn towards the end of the 8 months that they spent together. He found out, long story short, that before they were together, she had a boyfriend. And this boyfriend was sleeping with ladyboys. And this boyfriend told her that he thinks he's HIV positive and that he gave it to her. So when these two met, she came into this situation, she has HIV. And they started sleeping together from the beginning. He said he asked her right from the top if there's any concerns about any kind of STDs. She said she's good, no problem. He said the same thing. And they went on into a romantic relationship with this dark secret that she was keeping from him. And it didn't come up until the end of the relationship, about 8 months later, when he found out about some texting and communicating with other guys, which sparked the conversation for him to dig a little bit and find out a little bit more about what the heck is going on. And in the end, it came to the surface with pressure from this guy that she eventually admitted what was happening. She told him, looking him in the eyes, that she thinks she's HIV positive and she thinks she gave it to him. And he describes that moment as something where he felt he went white as a ghost. He felt like an immediate, holy shit, my life is changed forever. He said he felt like this wave of like fear came over him of like, what's to come now that he has HIV and he's in the Philippines, living his dream with his girlfriend, enjoying life. This girl has been lying to him the whole time. So he's looking at her and he's saying, like he's in shock, like he's looking at the person that he's been with for that long. And she kept that secret from him and was able to. And he said her response was, I'm sorry, I know it's selfish, but I know that you wouldn't want to be with me if I told you the truth. So this story actually has a good ending in that he went and got tested and he tested negative. And he had her go get tested and she tested negative. But just another example of how desperate some people can be. And this is not something that you will typically encounter back in your country when you're dating and when you're meeting people and when you're in relationships. This is completely different. It's completely different out here, guys. It is so great in so many ways, and there is so much potential. And there are dating opportunities here that you'll never experience back home. But there's huge risks, and these kind of things can happen, and they do happen. And in some cases, it's more of a money thing, and it's, you're getting scammed and you just become a walking ATM. Like there's so many different scenarios. But these three stories represent a level of desperation and willingness to go to great lengths, extreme lengths, like shocking. It's amazing to me how in all three of these examples that these Filipinas were able to pull it off. It's actually impressive. And I'm sure there are examples of this where the guy is getting caught up into a relationship where you're receiving so much of those things that you were wanting from a girl, attention, affection, a lifestyle over here where you can do things together that are, so much cheaper, and you're just caught up in this, paradise and this fantasy of life over here that you can get yourself into big trouble. So you have to be extra careful and take these stories, hang on to them, keep them in the back of your head that this shit can happen, and try to just be as aware of what's happening as possible. Ask more questions, dig a little bit deeper. If you're wondering of something and it's in the back of your head, trust your instincts. Trust your instincts. That's something that actually did come up in some of these conversations, is that there was something they were feeling throughout. There were some gut feelings that something felt off. And so you have to trust that. You have to trust your instincts to try to avoid these kind of crazy things that can happen. Anyways, guys, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. I hope you were entertained by this. More stories to come, because more stories are piling in as I'm traveling around and meeting different people. And I'll share them with you. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and we'll see you soon.